You're listening to the Gabe Molina Podcast.
Okay, I'm on 2.5. Do you want
Hey, you sound sounds normal for me now.
Okay, I gotta have it super loud.
Okay.
Or I don't feel like I'm hearing everything.
Okay, so is it for you? Can you hear differently?
Yeah, I've got different little buttons here.
Okay.
So mine's on like 8 and yours is
Wow.
on...
No, James can tell you I have very, very good hearing. I hear him when he's upstairs talking to himself. Who are you talking to?
All right, well, I'm here with Andreia Breaux, who is my sister-in-law.
And you're my little brother.
My really pretty sister-in-law.
Oh, thank you.
I was hoping that James wouldn't come because I was gonna flatter you a little too much.
You hear that, honey? No.
You're not just Nina's sister. You're little Big Tim's mom.
Yes.
Heavy Metal Fitness.
Yes.
San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah, very proud to have. I have 3 children. Timmy Ingram owns Heavy Metal Fitness, and he and his wife run that together. Michelle, his beautiful wife. I have a daughter, oldest daughter, Ty. And she lives in Houston outside.
She's a principal or something, right?
Yeah, she was a principal, but last year she became a consultant for the school district.
Oh, what's she doing consulting?
Helping the school districts to get their grades up, their national grade or their state
cool.
grades up. So she helps with that. So she's working from home and things are working out better for her.
Oh, that's cool.
But my youngest daughter, Cameron, she is a vice principal.
And super adorable.
Oh, I know, right?
So she's a vice
principal?
principal?
She's a vice principal now.
That's cool. Where at? In Houston as well,
it's
right?
in the Houston area, in the KIPP area. In the KIPP,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And just so everybody knows, Nina likes to come into the kitchen and start doing stuff when I'm trying to record.
Hey, it's me.
So that it'll annoy me and make noise. So that's kind of her role here at the podcast, I guess. So, well, one thing I'd like to talk about was I saw you on the news the other day, and you were talking about your mother. Mm-hmm. And explain to everybody who your mother was and what she was involved in, and it's massive. It's huge. So I'd like for you to share a little bit of that too, that way.
Okay, yes. So my mother was Ethel Louise Belton, and she was born with 6 holes in her heart.
6?
6 holes, and they didn't realize she had 6 holes. So they knew she had a heart condition when she was born, but they didn't realize until she was one of the first recipients of open heart surgery.
Wow.
So she was.
What year was that?
She was born in 1936.
Okay.
Yeah, 1936 in Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And
she was a Florida girl then.
Yeah, well, only for 2 years.
Okay.
And after 2 years, and she and her mother moved to Wilmington, Delaware, because her father had passed away from a heart condition. And crazy enough as it may seem, my mother and my grandfather passed away on the exact same day of a heart attack. Yeah,
Is that
40
hereditary?
years apart. Yes, it is, because I found a hole in my heart when
So you have one as well?
I had it repaired.
Okay.
I had it repaired. And of course, heart surgery's come a long way since
I bet.
when my mother first had it.
I bet,
so,
yeah.
But yeah, so because of her heart condition and because of Jim Crow's laws of separate but equal, she wasn't permitted to attend the same schools as white children. And I use the word white children because it excluded anyone who was of color, whether they're Hispanic, of Asians, of disabled, or they were just, as long as you were white, then you could attend
disabled
school.
as well?
Disabled as well.
Oh, wow.
Disabled as well. They were not mainstreamed into the classroom. They were segregated as well. So, because with her heart condition and everything, my grandmother felt this was not fair for her to have to walk this long distance,
Sure.
more than a mile or almost 2 miles to the city bus stop to take the city bus 10 miles into the city of Wilmington to attend the only black I'm going to say black high school, or high school that was designated for colored people in the entire state of Delaware, and that was Howard High School.
Oh, really?
So, and that was in northern part of Delaware. And so then southern, what we call lower Delaware, they didn't even have a school available.
And that's where she was, in lower Delaware?
No, we were in upper Delaware. See, on the East Coast, we say upper and lower instead of northern and southern when it comes to the states. So, unfortunately, the people who lived in downstate Delaware, didn't even have a school available to them to attend. But my grandmother went to the only man of color who had a law degree, and he took it to the state, and Chancellor Seitz said, "We are going to remove this stigma. We're going to remove this. We're going to be the first state in the United States to integrate everyone together." And he said, "But we're not going to say it's unconstitutional." He said, "Because we feel that is for the Supreme Court to determine whether it's constitutional or not." So Delaware was the first state in the United States to integrate people of color together so that they could have a chance of equal education. And when I say that, it's just because people who had to go to states that were designated for colored people, they didn't have the resources. Some of the teachers didn't even have college degrees to teach, and
really?
Separate but equal truly was not equal when it came to education. So that was won in Delaware in 1952. With the case was called Belton versus Gebhardt. And so then Thurgood Marshall at the time was collecting cases to bring before the Supreme Court to challenge the separate but equal in education. And so he had already gotten South Carolina, Virginia, Washington, D.C., and Kansas. And so he added the Delaware case, he said, because it had already won on a state level, he felt that...
and that was the first one you said?
It was the first state of the United States that ended segregation in education. So he added Delaware's case to the other four to bring to the Supreme Court because Delaware had already ended it. He said it would give it validity and would help in the case. And so my mother's case was added 2 weeks before it actually went to the Supreme Court. And so to make a long story short, the Brown versus Board of Education was one. It was a landmark Supreme Court ruling in 1954, May in 1954.
That is massive.
Yeah, it is.
That's a wonderful story too. I mean, and to be a part of that and have that lineage in your bloodstream, that's that's wonderful.
It is wonderful, and what we try to get people to understand is that even the accomplishments of Brown, we don't think it's finished.
Yeah.
So we keep promoting the importance of equal education for everyone. We still have instances where I think children's education may be based on their zip code, and some zip codes may not have the resources as other zip codes.
You're exactly right. I have a friend of mine whose wife, she works for a school district nearby, and I'll screw it up. I don't know her exact role in that, but I guess part of what she's been tasked to do is to go around to all the schools and kind of see what's going on, see what's lacking. And she'd gone to some schools that were on another part of town in the same area, and she was baffled at the lack of resources.
Yes,
and so it's her job to go and fight for resources for those schools. And you're right. I mean, it's continuous, and it's probably going to be a long continuous. I mean, think about it when your mom was going through it. That was what, 60 years ago, almost 70 now.
Yeah, almost 70.
So yeah. I mean, it's a constant battle.
That's right.
Constant struggle.
So the work of Brown, when I mean the work of Brown, I mean Brown versus Board of Education. It's not finished. It is an ongoing work, and that's why we keep promoting the importance of Brown. Right. Yeah. So here, I'm not native to Texas, but I always say I'm a Delaware girl. But we have independent.
You're almost a Texas girl.
We have independent school districts here, and I wasn't familiar with independent school districts, and I think this is one of the unfortunate ways where education can become unequal, according to resources and things like that. In our state, the entire state regulates our education. In this state, it's independent school districts that regulate their education, and the resources are, according to the zip codes.
Sure. Yeah, and I think a lot of people notice that and see that, and it's obvious. It's just the fix to it that I think people have a hard time trying to figure out, or when they do figure it out, implementing. So it kind of gets it's always, like you said, a constant struggle and work towards something better.
Yes.
So was your mom? I love my mom and my dad.
I know you do.
My dad dropped out of school when he was in the 7th grade. He had to go work and help support grandma and his sisters. And my mom was just always a very nice, sweet person. She didn't, we were never forced to do certain things, right? Yeah. So it almost feels as though they were happy that we were in high school and getting a high school diploma, right? Because that's something that my dad had wanted. He didn't achieve it.
Yes.
And so in hindsight, now that I'm older, I go, man, I wish somebody would have pushed me harder, because I think that I could have, I just could have gotten a lot farther ahead had I been smart enough to know what I didn't know and push myself to go and chase those things. Was your mom, because of those experiences, was she kind of I guess huge on education, because all you became some sort of teacher in some sort of way?
Absolutely. So. It's funny. I'm the oldest of the three of us. That when we were growing up, Janina didn't come until 20 years later from my stepmother. But when I was graduating from high school, my mother says, "Okay, now that you're graduating from high school, let me give you your 2 choices." I said, "Oh, okay. What are my 2 choices?" My mother said, "You can either go to college or you can go to college." So those were my 2 choices.
Nice.
So
it's funny because we have such opposite experiences. I remember I was in homemaking, and the last 2 weeks of school or something, they said, hey, they went through the curriculum. We were supposed to do this one last thing. So they had us draw floor plans out of a magazine onto a poster board. We had to make it bigger. And so I did mine, and I really liked it. And I did 6 other friends.
Oh.
And so I was asking her, I said, what is this? In George West, back home, small town, you either worked for like a state prison or federal prison. U.S. Steel was there back then, which was like a uranium plant. And so your vision for your future was pretty short-sighted for most people.
Kind of limited.
I don't know that we were limited. We just didn't have the vision of getting out of where we were.
I see.
Maybe we were comfortable. We wanted to follow in a family member's footsteps, kind of thing. But I remember I told Dad, I said, you know what, I'm going to go to B County and I'm going to study this drafting thing. And my dad's hilarious. But I remember Dad saying, okay. He's like, we don't have any money to send you to school, but you can borrow the car. And I said, okay.
Great.
But, like I said, they were always positive. But they was opposite of your mom, which was you're going to college and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So was she like that with all of you?
All 3 of us went to college, yes, absolutely.
And what did you study originally?
You don't want to know.
I do want to know.
Theater.
Oh, really? That's cool. Yeah. Let me tell you, you're talking to B County College's 1998 Best Supporting Actor right now.
Oh,
so
no
I'm just
kidding.
letting you know we do have some commonality there.
Okay, so. All right. And then later on, I went back to school and I studied kinesiology, the study of human movement.
What made you make that transition? Because that's a big transition. Well, I guess maybe not. I mean, there's human movement in theater, so.
Yeah, it's a different type of concept. But when you're studying kinesiology, for instance, if you bend your forearm, you know that it's the bicep muscles that's causing the shortening and the contraction. If you extend your arm, you know it's the triceps. So that's kind of what we mean by kinesiology, the study of human movement. What made me do that? I think over the years, watching my mother suffer, and I have to use the word suffer because as children growing up, we got used to it. That was my mother, just always sick, always being rushed to the hospital. She was always very, very sickly. As a matter of fact, Thurgood Marshall was such a kind man. Even though he became a Supreme Court justice, he would actually even call our home every once in a while just to say, hi, how you doing? How you feeling? He always checked on my mother. But we kind of got used to that. And And so even though my mother was very sick, I grew up with just, that was our life. I never really thought she'd die, but I just knew this was our life, right? And so I think when my mother did pass away, something changed in me, something clicked in me about health, wanting to never to suffer with something. What happened to her was not in her control. She was born with 6 holes in her heart. But I figured if there's anything in my control, I want to control that because I never want to suffer like her.
What age were you at when you experienced that?
My mother I was 23 when my mother died, and literally tried to save her life through CPR. And so I just got really, really interested in fitness and staying fit. Before she passed away, I was a martial artist in Taekwondo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nina says you love knives, and that's something else I think we have in common is I love knives. I'm not even going to tell you how much money I've spent on knives here recently.
No kidding.
It's ridiculous. But anyway, go ahead.
Knives and swords.
Knives and swords.
But so I got I just started getting so interested in health and the concepts of health and exercise and importance and what it can do. And I learned that exercise is medicine. And I was just determined as the years went by, I just evolved into this, I call it health freak, like my husband thinks I am. That my whole goal in life is not to be on lifelong medication.
Sure.
My whole goal in life is to stay as healthy as I can, and because I've seen suffering, and if it's within my control, I want to control it, and so that's why I do what I do and drive the people nuts that I drive nuts.
And opposites we are, because I'm opposite of that because I'm in terrible shape. But it makes sense, and it's something that we should all strive for. Mm-hmm. I think I'm just as guilty of it too, where it's kind of like, well, they make a medicine for that. And we're kind of taught that in a way with commercials and going to the doctor. It's like, oh, there's a pill for that. Mm-hmm. It's very rare that I think people encounter a doctor and the doctor says, you know what, why don't you work out 3 times a week and let's avoid taking this medication. Right away, here's this medication. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, that leads in, all of a sudden you need a medication because that other medication is going to affect something else. Mm-hmm. Now you're on 2 things or 3 things.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The American College of Sports Medicine, I can't remember if it was 2016 or 2018, they have this initiative that exercise is medicine. And with this initiative, they are trying to train healthcare professionals, doctors in particular, to not only just tell your patients, oh, you might need this medication, but let's try exercise first.
Sure.
Before we put you on a lifelong medication. And so that is their initiative, that exercise is medicine. And you're right, when you're on medication for long term, you're not quite sure if it will eventually affect kidneys or liver or whatever. But yes, there's a pill for everything.
Yeah.
And in our country, a lot of people aren't aware of this, but in our country, the pharmaceutical companies are allowed to market their drugs, their chemicals.
Yeah.
Other countries, no. So you
really?
would never go to other countries and see, take this pill, and if it lasts longer than 10 hours, then...
It's funny because like when the Viagra pill comes on, it was like if you experience an erection for longer than 4 hours, see a doctor. Yeah. And I told Nina, I said, if I experience an erection for longer than 4 hours, you better call some friends. I said, because I don't know how long that's going to last. But they come on all the time, and it's it's like if you experience, and there's like 1,000 things that if you experience, and it's kind of like, well, why would you even take that?
Exactly.
And they're like, even death, and it's like, wait, what?
By law, because it's not over the counter, they have to tell you what the possible side effects are. Once it goes over the counter, not so much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not so much. And so by law, they have to. They actually, the pharmaceutical company tried to even get rid of that stipulation that they had to tell it, but that was knocked down.
What do they say? There's the money's in what is it, not in the cure, the money's in the treatment.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that it's big business,
It's big business, a multi-billion-dollar business in treatment. Yeah.
Even with like not to get too crazy in the coronavirus thing, but even with the coronavirus thing, it was just kind of stay home and don't go anywhere. And there was a lot of people that I follow on social media that are like gym owners and things like that. And they're like, no, get sun, get fitness, go for a walk.
Yes.
Get your cardio better,
right.
get your heart rate better.
Absolutely.
And it's like,
and still stay safe.
Nobody was pushing that other than, people that are in the fitness industry that were saying that.
Yeah.
And it's true, it's scary stuff.
It's unfortunate. And then of course a lot of people would stay in, and then your mental wellness would,
Oh yes, that's a whole nother thing.
Oh yeah, it was just
scary stuff. So as you got into this stuff, of course Tim's got this really great gym now. Is that
so proud of him.
Is that something that was fed to the kids as well? You had him out there walking every day?
Let me tell you a wonderful story. Okay, so my son is a power lifter, and he fell in love with powerlifting and strongman.
And like his mom, terribly handsome. You're pretty.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, he's super cute. But when Timmy was 15 years old, I took him to the gym with me. Okay, 15 years old, and I thought, okay, I'm going to introduce him to the machines and weight training and things like that.
He was scrawny back then, wasn't he?
He was very lean. And so I'm teaching him using machines. And he sat there and he says, "Ma, this is boring." I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I thought to myself, my poor son's never going to lift a weight in his life.
Now he's got all the weights.
Now he's got it's amazing the amount of equipment that they have in heavy metal. Unusual equipment.
You know what's super exciting is watching tiny Timmy toes.
Yes.
Because how old is he now? 3 years old?
Yeah, he's 2.5.
2.5?
Yeah.
And I stalk Michelle on Instagram, and he had that scooter. And he was maybe almost 2 or 2. And he's power legging with one leg on the scooter. Tremendous balance.
Yes.
And then she posts, I guess he's got a balance bike or something, where he just does his feet.
Yes.
And it's amazing to see at his age the control that he has over his body.
Right.
And his balance.
Yes.
And he's not even 3.
Not even 3 yet. So when they take him to the park, as a matter of fact, I bought him both the scooter and the balance bike. But I had no idea that he'd take off this way. But Timmy said that he'll take his son to the park so he can ride his little balance bike around. And people are like, "What, dude? My kid's 6 years old, still can't ride a bike."
There's ramps and all kinds of things, and he's going over everything.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to see, it's interesting to see, I guess, the origins of your mom, the issues of the holes in her heart, and the issues that she had with that, and then here is Timmy, 3 generations down the road,
right?
And he's not even 3, and he's already an athlete.
Yes,
and it's
a natural
athlete. So it's crazy to see where that's come from and where it could potentially head.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, I'm super proud of him. And now they're having baby Troy will be born May 27th.
Oh, really?
And just like baby Timmy, they heard the sounds of the gym in utero. So when they were placed in the gym in their little car seats, those sounds were so normal for them, they just went to sleep.
Oh, really?
And so I'm suspecting that their son Troy will be exactly like Timmy.
Well, if you take, and this is coming from a fat guy who doesn't have kids, but if you get your kids used to an unhealthy lifestyle, they're going to live an unhealthy lifestyle.
Right.
It's funny to watch videos of baby Tim even about a year ago, because he's emulating everything everybody's doing, the movements, the lifts,
the gym.
And he's got little weights, and people would make him things out of, I guess, crocheting things, and it's just part of him, and so it'll be a part of him probably his entire life. Yes, and
then there'll be his grandmother. You make sure you get your education and go along with all of this, these movements, so you know what you're doing.
Exactly. And Tim's got a kinesiology degree.
Yes, he has
right?
an exercise science degree from Texas A&M.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's certified in the biomechanics of strength training. Okay. So I learn a lot from Timmy when it comes to strength training.
Well, one thing that I tell people, Nina, is Tim's a great guy. When you meet Tim, you think, Nina's like, he comes across as this tough guy. She's like, but I know what he really is. And it's funny because when he's walking around the gym and he's cheering for people, he's got kind of this presence about him, and it's a tough guy presence. And when you start talking to him about the things that he's knowledgeable about, it's like a switch changes, right? Yeah. And now he's no longer saying, "Come on, yeah, boy,"
Yeah, right.
or anything like. All of a sudden, he's extremely articulate, and he knows his stuff.
Yes.
And it's interesting to watch because I need to start going to heavy metal. I'm not gonna lie, but the problem that I ran into when we first started exercising together was when I would exercise on my own, I would do things that I learned in high school, right? And so I'm not 18, At the time, I was 35. So the things I would do in high school, I would try and do them as I was older, and I kept hurting myself. I kept pulling a muscle or a ligament or a tendon would be strained.
Right.
And so I'd sit out 2 weeks, 3 weeks to recover, and all of a sudden I'm back at zero.
Yeah.
And so the cool thing with somebody who knows their stuff and is knowledgeable, and a lot of people don't want to pay for a trainer, but it's worth it because Tim was showing me ways to exercise that were not going to impact me as bad as they would if I did the stuff I did in high school.
Exactly.
So now I was exercising continuously, regularly, and I wasn't getting hurt. And that knowledge base is something that you probably should pay for. It's worth the investment.
Exactly. So this is the whole basis of exercise science, and like all sciences, it evolves. It's very dynamic. So we're constantly learning in exercise science. So what we were doing in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, quite different.
How do you know what was happening back then? Because you're not even nearly that. What are you, 28? You look 27. I
started teaching in 1983. I told my husband that on the way here. I said, I've been teaching fitness since 1983. So I'm ready to.
So you were 9?
Yeah, right. So I'm happy to be retired, and I just love working out on it. And seriously, I still get advice from my son when it comes to particularly powerlifting and weight training and so forth. With my age, I'm very proud of the things that I can do in heavy metal fitness.
Yeah, and not only is he knowledgeable, there's being in a gym like that. We've gone to Gold's before too, and Gold's it has its place, but Gold's, everybody's got headphones on, nobody's talking to anybody, and everybody's Instagramming everything that they're doing.
Right.
But at a place like Tim's, where there's other people that have their own knowledge base, and there's just this constant feedback, and this constant sharing of information,
right.
And you can sit there in the room and watch people working out in different ways. And you're like, oh, I had never thought of that.
Right.
So being in that kind of atmosphere is you can learn a lot in that kind of place.
So right. Working at a heavy metal, I have met, I would say 50% of the people working out there were working on kinesiology degrees or exercise science degrees. There was a professor who, I think he was Trinity University, who was teaching exercise science. We have physicians that work out there. I mean, people, very, very smart people work out there, and they understand the importance of exercise, and they understand and they love the sport of powerlifting or strongman competitions. But it's so important. A lot of people, there are a lot of myths when it comes to weight training, especially among women. Women were taught, well, if you lift weights, you're going to get these ugly muscles and you're gonna look like those weightlifting women who oh my gosh, that's such a myth. Women, we have a little bit of testosterone that helps us to build muscles called androgenic. Okay, so but we need it. Strong muscles equate to strong bones. Okay. Weak muscles equate to weak bones. And what do you have when you have weak bones? Fractures. Yeah, fractures. And at the older you get, and the less that your body is absorbing bone minerals to make your bones stronger, like calcium and phosphorus and other things like that, you're going to suffer fractures of the spine. You're going to suffer fractures of the hip, of the wrist. You're going to suffer fractures. So we need weight-bearing exercises. We need that, or you're going to suffer fractures. So it's a trickle-down effect.
It's funny you say that because I did a podcast with Josh Pearl the other day, and he runs Green Cross in Brackett in Wimberley. And so I've been taking some CBD stuff for joint pain. But it's like I have a very sedentary job. And so my working out does not match my sitting, right? So I find that movements, everything pops. And I told Nina the other day, I was like, I need to talk to Tim. I'm like, because in my mind, and you can correct me because I'm an idiot, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But it's like in my mind, it's like I'm losing muscle tone, and it's probably keeping my joints, the muscle and the ligament strength and all that stuff around everything is probably getting weaker, and that's why everything hurts and pops and cracks and everything, from my spine to my hip to my knee to my ankle to my elbows, my wrists, my shoulders, and it's like it's not a good feeling, and it's something that needs to get changed.
Yeah,
quick.
well, there's this law of use it or lose it. And we fall right under that law of use it or lose it. It's called disuse atrophy. So, and then we also have that law of reversibility. So if you're exercising and you stop, then you reverse all of those wonderful benefits. There was a study where they went into some nursing homes, and they selected people that were in wheelchairs, on walkers, and on canes, and they used these particular subjects every day. They came into the nursing homes, and they took those subjects and they exercised them every day. Eventually, each one of those subjects got out of their walkers, got out of their wheelchairs, got off of their canes. It was wonderful. They regained their mobility. They regained their strength, because you can do that. It doesn't matter the age. Yeah. So then they wanted to see, well, what will happen if we just stop exercising? Seems like these people seems like a cruel thing to do.
Sure.
But they wanted to see this principle of reversibility. So they stopped coming. So eventually, each one of these subjects went back to their wheelchairs, went back to their canes, went back to their walkers. So this law of use it or lose it is true.
Yeah. And you
can feel it like you're feeling.
And I'm telling you, it's a daily thing. And it's amazing because I'm super inconsistent. And if Tim ever listens to this, he's going to go, yeah, he's super inconsistent. But when you start working out, your body reacts to that.
Yes,
and it's the change is really, really quick. And all of a sudden, you start building that muscle tone. You start feeling better. You start feeling less lethargic. And it's within a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
And the use it or lose it, the aspect to that is the greatest example is your daddy. I mean, how old's Mr. Brown? 88?
He'll be 88 May 15th.
And it's funny because me and Nina, I'll be honest, I don't say negative things, but I'll talk a little trash every now and then.
Who doesn't?
And Nina says, I'm going to tell my daddy. And whenever she tells me that about my dad, I'm like, I can outrun him. And one day I told her, I said, I'll just outrun him. I was like, wait a second, I'm not going to outrun your daddy.
No.
And every day, I mean, I think he mows the yard even if he doesn't need to.
Yeah.
And he's continuously doing something in the yard work. And I mean, he's in great shape. Yes. I mean, he's lost weight, but I guess that's natural as you get older. Yeah. But I mean, he's still in great shape.
Well, he actually knows the importance of longevity is being physically active. You don't have to be in a gym. Yeah. You just have to be physically active. And he's doing what he loves. You know, he landscapes. He's putting in flowers. He's taking out trees.
Yeah.
And at his age, sometimes I worry, but I don't want it to be in his mind that he's not able to do something, because the body achieves what the mind believes, and he certainly believes that he can do everything he wants to do.
And he's got some back history in nutrition, right?
Yes, in the military. So he, I forget the name of his title in food, but he would design people's nutrition, depending on whether they were diabetic or normal or whatever. And so maybe Janina would remember his title. I just don't remember his title.
I know he's constantly, he's the type of person, like, we have terrible eating habits, and that's obvious by our physique, but he's constantly eating something, and it's not that he's eating bad things. He loves sweets, but there's nuts and there's fruits, and he's just constantly nibbling.
Yes.
And I mean, you've known him a lot longer than I have, but in the 12 years that I've known him, it's continuous, and it's all the time. And he doesn't ever seem to really sit down and eat this massive meal.
No, he doesn't.
And then not eat for the rest of the day. It's
Right.
just continuously. So I guess your body's knowing that it's getting food and it's processing it, and it's just kind of a machine that's
Exactly.
being maintained.
So they've done a lot of studies with that. If you, it's metabolism. So he can keep his metabolism rate high just by eating small meals throughout the day. So the body doesn't feel like it's going to go in a famine where it's going to slow down its metabolic rate, the rate at which you will burn calories to protect itself, because the body is a survivor. So you eat these small little meals throughout the day, particularly, including protein within those meals.
Did you see that as soon as you said that, somebody got up and started nibbling?
So
Eat a small meal during the day.
okay. But one of the things that I did counsel him upon recently was making sure that he had adequate water intake.
Oh, okay.
There were some studies, because I'm always concerned about his age and everything, but there were some studies where they were actually treating older people for dementia. And, as we get older, we kind of think, oh, yeah, well, dementia comes with age or whatever. Turned out that these older people they were just simply dehydrated.
Oh, really?
Because the brain holds quite a bit of water in it. And it's like if you can imagine a raisin, what happens when you take the water away from a raisin? Yeah, and it looks like a raisin, right?
Yeah.
This grape will look like a raisin. So the brain is exactly the same. The brain actually will shrink, and then people will show signs of dementia. And so, I was visiting him yesterday, and he told me, oh, yeah, I've already had 5 bottles of water today. So he's really being conscientious about the amount of water that he's in, and that's so not only for him but for all of us.
Yeah. And let me ask you this, because I always hear, and people hear things through the grapevine, and they take it as gospel. So when you're taking in water, like, obviously I'm going to need more water than you are. So people tend to say, well, what is it, like 8 cups, 8 glasses of water a day? What are people with different size, body shapes, heights, types, what's the amount of water you should be drinking?
Well, that's a very good question, and it depends. That's what word that I'm going to use. Depends. It depends on the environment you're going to be in. If you're going to be outside in the sun, it depends if you're going to be exercising. It depends. But the great indicator is to look at your urine.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to come on and talk about pee today, but it's very important.
I love
the importance
pee, poop, whatever.
Your pee, your urine should be slightly yellow. It should not be dark yellow.
And it should not
have a scent. It shouldn't be a solid.
Okay.
Oh God, I hope not.
I've had a few weird pee samples that I've had to give at work, but anyway,
okay. We'll talk about that later. But just keep an eye on how often you urinate, the color of your urine, because that's a great indicator of whether or not you're hydrated enough. Yeah. If it's a dark yellow, if it's even you want it almost clear but not clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it's clear, is that a problem too?
Yeah, that's a problem too, because too much water, hyperuricemia, can actually cause your kidneys to shut down.
Oh, really?
And it can cause death. So
wow.
there's all what does my father always say? Moderation is the key, right? So too much water is not a good thing either.
So then, let me ask you. This is going to be a stupid question, but I feel like I need to ask it anyway. If you are, this is the bad thing that I do. I know I sweat like crazy. And so I know if I'm going to go do something, I'm going to go to my sister's ranch, or I'm going to go to the beach or something, I need to drink a lot of water. So I'm an idiot too. So I'll drink a ton of water. I'll have some Gatorade like the day before. And then the day of, I'll continuously drink. But I guess I have these huge highs and lows of me drinking water. And so I guess once you find that proper color in your pee, you just have to maintain that.
Yes.
And a lot of times I think we get away from that, or we start to dehydrate a little bit. And it's not being consistent with that water intake. And so I sometimes I sit there and go, I'm going to drink a Coke or I'm going to drink a juice or something. There's got to be water in that. But you really need that water.
Just water. Just the water. It's so important. And don't be afraid of sweating. Sweating is good. This is.
Oh, I'm sweating right now.
Yeah, I thought you were glistening and sparkling.
No.
The evaporation of sweat is how the body cools itself. Okay, so it's okay to sweat. That's okay, and we replenish that. But what's terrible is dehydration because it directly affects your cardiovascular system.
Oh, okay.
So the majority of the water that's in our body, it's in our plasma. Okay, we've got water in our brains, we got water in organs, even in our fat cells, about 10% of water in our fat cells. But most of the water that's in our body, it's in our plasma. Okay, so when we are sweating profusely or we have diarrhea, we're vomiting, we're losing that water. So what happens is that our circulatory system becomes very sluggish, and it becomes very difficult for the heart to have to pump this sluggish, thick blood through your body. So you want to stay hydrated. So what if you sweat? That's a good thing.
Well,
so just
that brings me to this. So Heavy Metal Fitness had about 3 weeks ago, I guess. They had their meet. Was it a month, somewhere around there?
It was about 3 weeks ago, I think.
3 weeks. And so you were extremely helpful.
Thank you.
And we cooked. We grilled in the back. We made burgers and hot dogs.
So
and
we were right there at the grill.
Fed a lot of people. And to me, I'm Mexican, so in my mind, if I ignore something, it's gonna go away. If I don't acknowledge it, it'll go away on its own. So we're over the fire, we're making fire, and we're grilling, and then we're in the street with the concrete, and the sun's out. And so I didn't take the canopy. I should have taken the canopy. But in my mind, I was like, I got plenty of things to drink. I'll be fine. And so we're cooking, and as things are going and people are showing up to grab food, you're in the middle of doing what you're doing. And so before you know it, 2 hours went by, 2.5 hours go by, 3 hours have gone by. And it's like, oh man, I haven't eaten anything. I haven't had anything to drink. And so it's a terrible feeling because it's like, you don't know you're in trouble until you're in trouble.
Right.
And so I ended up getting hot, overheated, and had to go take a little break. But there was a time, what was her name, Danielle, who was helping us?
Yes.
Super sweet girl.
Beautiful.
Wonderful. And so she's helping out, and I remember I got up to flip some of the meat, and I got this weird woozy feeling in my head, and I started noticing that it was almost like my thought process was slowing down. And so I was like, you know what? I didn't want to ask you to help at Tim's event because we've done it once before, and it's a long day, and it's hot, and I love it. I enjoy it. I really do. At the end of the day, I love doing it.
Yeah.
But it's a long day. And so I was like, well, I don't want Andrea to have to be out there and screwing with that. So I thought about all these people I could invite. I invited a couple other people. They couldn't make it. And I was like, you know what? And Nina's like, just ask Andrea.
So was the last choice.
No. You would have been the first if it was for something fun.
Okay.
Not that it wasn't fun. It's just hot. And so finally I was like, fine, call Andrea. And so it's funny because I sit there and I tell Nina, I was like, God literally put the right person with me that day.
Oh, sweet.
Because I'd have been screwed. Wow. So, I asked Danielle to, kind of take over, and went to go sit in the shade, and I was just brutally hot and sweating, and I was drinking Gatorade, and I was like, this is not good. And I knew I was in better shape than what I thought I was, just because I knew that I was screwed, if that makes any sort of sense. And so, right away, I'm of Mexican descent, so everybody said, "You all right?" "Oh yeah, I'm fine." And as soon as they walk away, machismo, yes. And so, Tim came over to check on me, and hey, yeah, man, I'm fine. Don't worry, man. And then I was thinking, man, I wish I had a chair and something cold. And here he came with a chair and something cold, and you're like, here, take this, put this on your neck, drink this because it's cold. Gatorade, your body has to process it, digest it, and the water your body's just going to absorb. So give us a little back history on what was happening to a fat middle-aged guy in front of a barbecue pit the other day.
Okay, first of all, fat middle-aged guy. What you were going through was called hyperthermia. hyperthermia, abnormally high body temperature, and that can happen to anyone. As a runner, I used to run in Washington State all the time with 10Ks and things like that, and I would see people just stop running and sit underneath of a tree, and these are very physically fit, athletic people, but anyone can acquire hyperthermia. Okay? So usually some of the symptoms are what you felt: disorientation, dizziness, nausea, fatigue, maybe even fainting. I mean, it's very unpleasant. But the bad thing about hyperthermia is that you can cross a line into heat stroke. Okay. So you were suffering from heat exhaustion, and then you cross that line into heat stroke, and that's a medical emergency.
Okay.
And this is where people can die. And when you stop sweating, that's when we know you should be in a hospital right now, because your brain is no longer regulating your body temperature.
Okay? Oh, wow.
So it's so whenever you feel that way, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to.
So I get that everybody's different, but is there a sort of time frame in there where you say, okay, Gabe stopped sweating, we need to get him to the hospital? Or is it like, Gabe stopped sweating, he's fixing to die?
Okay.
Which one is it?
If I noticed that you had stopped sweating, I definitely would have called 911. Okay. Because that is a medical emergency. That means that your body core temperature is only going to continue to elevate. You're no longer controlling from the brain that system that you should be controlling. So they would probably pack you in cold ice or something to get your temperature back. So medical.
Let me ask you this, because when you brought me a rag full of really cold water and ice, and not that I questioned you, but I was putting it on, and it was like my body temperature was high, and it was like so cold. I was like, man, what, am I gonna go into shock putting something? It won't do that. Okay.
No. You were trying to get your temperature down so you wouldn't cross over into that line of heat stroke. So you can put it under your armpits. You can put it on your chest, on top of your head, around your neck. So you can even actually put cold packs around the groin area. All of these.
Because you've got those large arteries, right? So
yes.
You're trying to cool the blood down.
Yes, you're trying to cool that down, which ultimately you're trying to cool your brain down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So please, whenever you feel like that, take those precautions, because a person can die. And there've been lots of athletes who have stopped doing what they're doing, try to cool off, and slip right into heat stroke and pass away. So
what do people look for? Like, let's say that we're just hanging out at the beach, and what are we looking for when we see somebody who's experiencing that?
Okay, talk to them and see if they're disoriented. See if they're making sense when they speak. Look to see if they're still sweating. You can even take their maybe pulse to see if they have a rapid pulse.
So the heart rate would be high?
Oh yeah,
because it's trying to push the thick blood.
It's going to. So the heart's working a little bit harder. Remember, it directly affects your cardiovascular system.
Okay.
So there are a lot of things, but you have to keep an eye on a person like that. You have to and first of all, always know your symptoms. If you even start feeling any of the symptoms that you felt, go for the cold water, go for the cold ice packs.
Because that's going to get your core temperature down.
That's going to get your temperature down. It's going to help get your temperature. And if that's not effective, then you have to seek medical help.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you, because, like I said, I at the time, I kind of I try the machismo thing shows up, and I always tell Nina, I'm like, man, I need to take better care of myself, because if my fat ass falls down, ain't nobody picking me up. Even though at Heavy Metal Fitness, there probably was a handful of people that would have done it fairly easily, but it's just difficult to put yourself in that position. And like I said, at times, most of the time, you don't realize it till you're in the middle of it,
right?
And it's kind of like, well, shit, I waited too long.
Yeah.
And when I got in the truck to leave, I know I left you a little bit early. Or a lot early, actually, but I felt like I was like, I need to get out of here. And as soon as I was driving off, my air conditioner, the truck's been screwing up from time to time.
Oh, no.
So it's been working.
Oh.
As soon as I got in it to turn it on, because I was overheated,
yes,
it wouldn't work.
Oh no.
So once I got on the road and was driving off, I kept feeling the wind go, through the truck. I lowered the windows. And immediately I started feeling better, but I was still a little foggy in the head.
Sure.
And so when I got home, I went and took a cooler shower and kind of laid around and started drinking a lot of water.
Good.
And I would say probably 3 or 4 hours later, I felt fine.
Okay. Good.
And the next day, I think I talked to Tim. I think I talked to you as well. And I I felt 100% better.
That's good.
And
good.
But it is scary when you're in the middle of
It's
it.
very scary. I retired from San Antonio College as a professor of kinesiology and health. And usually when we talk about water with my students, I would ask, how many of you have ever suffered heat cramps or heat exhaustion? And, because we've already gone over the symptoms and the signs and things like that. And half my class always would raise their hand. So, it's true though. When a person is heavier weight, you have more insulation, so you're more at risk,
Right.
For that. But half my class would always raise their hand at and then I'd say, "Tell me what happened with you. What were you doing when this happened to you?" So it's very, very common. You just got to know when you're going through it, and then make sure that you take those steps to try to reverse it and get back.
Is it safe to say that you think? I think this is probably a pretty easy question to answer, but. Most people walk around dehydrated all the time.
It's unfortunate. Yes, definitely. Yeah, and like I said, especially with older people, they'll show signs of not quite being right. And the doctors may say beginning stages of not Alzheimer's or dementia.
Yeah.
And so, I would say most people don't drink enough water. And I think most people, we're not born knowing all the concepts of health.
Sure.
We're just not. And a lot of the things that we hear from our friends, we hear from our buddies, or maybe our moms that say do this and for what reason or whatever. But we do need to have science-based information behind it so that we know how to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. And the knowledge is important, but I guess also listening to your body, and
Yes.
And I'm a huge proponent of ignoring what my body's telling me, because again, if I don't acknowledge it, it's gonna go away, right?
Oh my gosh.
But I guess maybe that's not always the case.
They say if you listen to your body when it whispers, you'll never have to listen to it when it screams.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. I don't want to change gears too hard here, but I guess we will. We're almost at an hour, so I wanted to touch base with you on your. I told you earlier, I kind of started this because it based around my brother Eddie.
Yeah.
And one thing that I wanted to kind of talk to you is because of your knowledge base in this stuff, of course, but also, when my brother Eddie passed, we didn't do an autopsy. They didn't think that we need to, but it's like unless there's something definitive, you're always like, well, what happened? Mm-hmm. And the best of my knowledge, he had been sick for about 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And he was vomiting, had diarrhea, was dehydrated, hadn't had his blood thinners, and they think he had a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
And talking to you and listening to some of the stuff that you told me about, it makes sense that could have been the case. If you have a guy that's already on blood thinners that doesn't have them and is dehydrated, that blood's going to get thicker. And if he has any sort of heart issues or blockages or something, it's just going to exacerbate that. So.
Yes, directly affect the cardiovascular system and the myocardium. Yeah. Having to pump that very viscous blood through these very narrow passageways, it could have exacerbated his condition.
Yeah. And so
sorry.
Yeah, it's difficult losing anybody,
Sure.
But losing somebody in the manner where it's out of natural order. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
You're gonna have this idea of if you have to write everybody that you love down in what order you think they're gonna go in. When you take somebody out of that line that wasn't their turn, it's shocking, and I know that you experienced that with Billy.
Yeah.
But I wanted to also ask you some things about Billy.
Sure.
Billy was my interactions with Billy were always fun, and they weren't very many because usually we saw Billy around holidays and stuff. And one of the first interactions with Billy was Thanksgiving. And I love my mom. My mom is not like the rest of us. My dad, my sister, my brothers, me, we were always involved in athletics and sports and doing something. And my mom was nowhere near any of that stuff.
Okay.
And one Thanksgiving, we're all hanging out, making fun of each other because that's what we do, and talk trash. And I look over here at this table, and Billy and Mom are sitting here playing Connect 4.
Oh,
And they probably hung out for like 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
no kidding.
And I was like, nobody hangs out with mom for 2.5 hours. I love her, but nobody hangs out with her. And they just got along great.
That's awesome.
And there was times where we'd meet at Mr. Brown's, or we'd have Christmas or something, and we'd take Billy home. One of my favorite stories was that Nina remembers. Me, Nina, and I think Omar or somebody, one of her cousins, was taking Billy home. And we went to his townhome, and we pull into the parking. The gate opens. We walk in, and Billy's in the back seat, and there's these girls standing next to this car. They're talking to some people, and Billy goes, "Hey, I know her," and he goes, "Hussy." So he was always just hilarious, and I know we lost him too soon. Y'all lost him too soon.
Yeah.
But tell me some good stuff about Billy. I know he was an artist, and all. Well, was he always an artist, or was it something that developed as he got older? Or?
Okay. Billy, I literally remember.
He was the oldest?
No, I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest. Okay, so he was the second?
He's 2 years younger than I am.
Okay.
That's what I was about to say. I literally remember being in the old-fashioned baby carriages with Billy. Well, my mother would put him in the baby carriage, and then I'm 2 years older, and she'd say, "Okay, don't wake up the baby." So then I remember laying there.
Super
It's like,
still.
yeah, super. But my brother was a prankster. I don't know if you knew that too.
No.
Oh my gosh, growing up, I could go to the restroom, and I'm sitting on the potty, and all of a sudden he would bust through the shower curtain and scare me, and then I'd try to kill him. And then he would hold my sister down and put his dirty socks in her mouth. Or he would tickle us until we couldn't breathe. And to this day, I can't handle being tickled. I just cannot. But he was a total prankster. But yes, he had a love and a gift for art, and he would just draw the most wonderful things, and things that he'd never saw before, like dragons. Seriously,
Really?
it was amazing in such detail. He had a wonderful gift. And when we were kids growing up, I always considered him to be the smartest of us. Because he was the type of person you could ask him any type of question, and he always had an answer for it. And he loved things like Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So my mother, she would buy him the books, and every time they would do an update or edition of those type of books, because he loved it. The weird and unusual. Maybe he thought himself to be a little different. I'm not sure. But Billy was a lot of fun. I remember shortly, a couple years before he passed away, I took him to the movies. And I can't remember which film we watched, because we would do it all the time. I said, "Okay, let's go out to eat." So we went to the restaurant, and I said, "It's on me." He says, "Okay, sister." So he opens up his menu, and he looks. And the server came and asked, "Well, what can I get you?" And my brother says, "I would like a lobster and a steak." And I'm thinking, I'll take a salad. But never again.
Well, one of the stories that I heard, and I'm probably going to screw it up, but didn't the three of y'all get hit by a car all together once when you were little?
Yes. My mother, we walked inner city Wilmington. We would walk 1 mile from our home to the school. And my mother always said, "Hold hands when you cross the street. All three of you hold hands." So we were all holding hands, and we were still holding hands when the car hit us.
Well, you know what? That must have shocked your mom, but at the same time make her a little proud that y'all were doing what she asked you.
Absolutely.
Well, we're at an hour.
Okay.
So I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you for
and
asking.
God bless Eddie, and God bless Billy.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for sitting with
And
me.
I love you. Thank you so much.
I love you too, and thanks for saving my life.
Oh my gosh. Anytime, little brother. Anytime.
Great job, Andrea.
Well, I guess not everybody in the room is excited about you saving my life, but anyway. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
And thanks everybody for listening.
Alrighty.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Gabe Molina Podcast.